Good morning, guys. Today we're going to be talking about shoulder pain, something that affects a lot of people throughout their life and can be very frustrating. I call it the Bermuda Triangle of pain sometimes because it can get painful to the degree that the pain is suddenly in the front, then the next minute's on the top, on the side, back to the front, and it moves around. And other situations, a lot of people find that they are reaching above the head causes real pain, and we almost go into this what we call like the broken arm, as in bird arm, chicken wing positioning to kind of protect ourselves. So what I'm going to be talking about is two of the main reasons why we have this, which is an impingement that we have, so usually found when lifting the arm, and we're going to look at your anterior or posterior, but mainly anterior capsule laxity. If you don't know what it is, it's an overstretching of part of the front of the joint is the simplest way I'm going to put it, but Google will obviously help you with that. Either way, they're causing pain. They're the most common ones. So what do we do? Or how is this happening? So around your shoulder, you have 4 rotator cuff muscles. The main function of those rotator cuffs are keeping your joint stable. So they will make sure that the head of the humerus, so if you've got this bone in your arm, it comes up, the head of it is called the humerus. So you basically is just a way of saying the top part of the bone. It sits in what's called a glenoid fossa. So if you imagine, there's the joint. Now you can see my arm going up. So this bone goes up and rides in. So there we are. There's the top of your humerus into the glenoid fossa. And what should happen is the rotator cuffs attach onto different points in this, and their main function is to keep that bone stabilized in the middle of the joint. And when you raise your arm up in the air, what it should do is it actually should do what we call an inferior glide. So if you look at the bone, it should actually keep it inferior so we don't get an impingement, for example, by banging into the top. However, if you have a disruption to the shoulder, one of the main things that can be happening is the rotator cuffs aren't doing their job. So as you raise your arm, bang, we start banging into the top section, banging into the bone area, the ligaments, the cushion, the labrum, the area that is surrounding and should be housing the joint. And constantly banging and not getting this inferior glide of banging into causes irritation and pain, and then very soon after that you're in almost a bracing pattern of protection because your body's trying to protect you from continual aggravation to the shoulder. And that's just one of the main things that can happen. When your rotator cuffs are functioning properly and correctly, what they do is they go up, they prevent the glide from happening, and the joint sits lovely. What that is known as scientifically is your rotator cuffs maintain the instantaneous axis of rotation, which means I can move and my joint does its job properly. So what am I going to do about, or what can we do about your shoulder pain? In the vast majority of cases, the rotator cuffs are the issue with this. However, the rotator cuffs aren't usually the cause. So if we just go to treat the rotator cuffs, like I say in all my other videos, we're just going to the symptoms and not looking at the causes. So what can cause these rotator cuffs to go into a position of either too long or too tight that are leading to this disruption and ultimately my pain? We have to start at the foundation. The foundation of all movement, exercise and rehabilitation process starts with your posture and your muscle length tension relationships, but particularly the flexibility within the muscle is where you want to start. What I mean is, if there are muscles that are too short and too tight, they will pull. You've got these 4 rotator cuffs, and if one of them's pulling too hard, well, we might be pulled into this position before we even get going. Or the muscle that comes in over the top to help keep it down, the inferior glide, might be too long and weak. So we start with the short and tight, and then we address the long and weak. We address the long and weak mainly through exercise, stability training. We address the short and tight through treatment from a professional, but getting our stretching right. So we can get our stretching right to help this. So we're not going to be stretching the rotator cuff muscles. As I said, there would be symptoms from a cause. But what we are going to look at is, are the muscles around this area balanced, or do I have tight traps or a tight pec due to whatever and the whatever reason could be poor exercise technique, and I've made this muscle get overexcited. It could actually be a nutritional element, the liver, or a nutritional element, or an organ element. So the liver reflexes to the right shoulder. So sometimes right shoulder pain is actually being disguised, and it's actually coming from my liver and my lifestyle factors. And what impacts liver? Well, liver's got a lot to do with water and hydration. It helps clear out chemical imbalances within the body, removing toxins. And if this is compromised in any other way, then it can be reflexing into the shoulder. The heart reflexes into the left shoulder. So straight away, you can see now how we're quite far removed from the initial, and this is where the integrated health professional comes in, because we can make sure that it may be that you actually have a double whammy. You've got shoulder pain because of the imbalance, but actually right behind all of it is the liver. So we have to treat the liver. We have to, through supplement support or water hydration and education of lifestyle factors. So we support that to help. We open up the muscles, we stabilize the shoulder, then a long-standing injury can come out of pain. Those things take a long time. You are not going to resolve this in 2 or 3 sessions with a professional, whatever professional you go and see, as long as they, I would highly recommend someone who does the integrated health, like a Czech practitioner. If you've been in pain for 5 years, this is not going to resolve in 2 hours worth of treatment. So just bear that in mind going forward. So I'm just making sure I've talked about everything I wanted to talk about. So we're going to look at muscles. So I'm going to look at 3 main muscles that contribute to this. There are more, but I'm giving you some practical things to do. So the first one we're going to look at is your trapezius. So on the trapezius muscle, I can sit in a chair or just sit in this position. We want to see if there is any tension in this area that needs stretching. So all I'm going to do is take my ear to the side and hold, go to the front, take the ear to the side, hold for a moment. So you could actually do this on your camera at home. You could film yourself, get to your end point, pause it, do the other side, end point, pause it, then go back to the video, and you can almost use a goniometer, an angle measurer, like a protractor from school, to measure. If I was going from this side, just pick a landmark so I can go straight through the nose, straight to vertical, and find the degree and find the degree. We want 45 degrees of motion in that, but we're mainly looking for an imbalance. So if I've got a 40 and a 30, for example, well, I want to stretch the side that only went to 30 degrees. So how do I stretch that muscle? Quick demonstration. You find yourself a chair, or in my case, a piano stool, to the side, and all I'm going to do in this position, I anchor on like the guide ropes of a tent, hand across the top of my head, and all I'm going to do is gently pull to the side and hold in this position. The shoulder stays anchored down. In terms of by me holding onto the side, it gives me an anchor point for the shoulder girdle, so I can allow the stretch to happen. This is a very basic way of stretching it. There are things we can do with hiking the shoulder as well, but for now, I just want us to pull across. Oh yeah, I can feel a gentle pull. Yeah, I can feel a stretch on the side. And what I may do is change the angle. If I'm pulling 90 degrees, because there are different fibers on the side, I might change it to 80 degrees. 80 degrees, just a slight pull. I can feel it, which bit's tight, and I can find the area that's tight and pull into it gently for a 30-second stretch a couple of times. I'm going to stretch the side that is tighter. So that's the first stretch. Second stretch we're going to look at is lats. How do I test if I've got tight lats? So imagine I am lying on the floor. Imagine I am flat now, laying on the floor. You are looking at me laying on the floor. I'm going to take my hands in this position, not this position, palms facing me, and I'm just going to take my hands up over my head and just lay them against the floor. Now, what you may find on a side view is you may have this. You may have that position where the left lat is able to go in, but the right lat is blocked. I can't get back, or as I go in, I go into this position. I'm up and it's flaring out to the side. That indicates, for example, in this situation, that my right lat is tight. So we need to do an effective latissimus dorsi stretch to open this section out. And a lat stretch that we can do to open this out, where's the ball, is this one. So I'm going to use a Swiss ball for this one. I'm just going to show you as if my left lat was tight. So I'm on the Swiss ball, my top leg is almost locked out, going into something, a wall. My right leg, you're going to just find a position of comfort. You should really be wearing trainers for this so you don't slip. And then all you want to do is get the correct distance from the wall. What's the correct distance? You'll know it. If I'm here and I go to lean over the ball, I'm going to go flying. If I'm here, I can't even lean into the ball, I'm blocked. You'll find an angle, and all you're going to do is lean over the ball, relax everything off. As you can see, my arm is coming over, hanging in this position, and I can apply a gentle bit of pressure, just gentle, pulling down to open up the lats. This is also stretching the oblique line, so we're getting a double whammy here. In effect, same again, hold for 30 seconds, no pulling through tight. So if it was my left that was the tight side, for now, I'm going to do the left. Now, I'm actually just going to go with those two stretches. There are other stretches you can do, but like the pec minor is a classic stretch to do. But the pec minor, you can find if you're tight in that position, and there are ways of doing that, but then you need to know how to stretch it. And stretching that requires, like when I work with clients, I don't just go, oh, do this pec stretch, off you go, here's a video of it. Because there's a lot to a pec stretch in terms of getting it right, getting the angles right to actually open up the pec minor muscle. But the pec minor is one of the first muscles that can start irritating the whole area due to its tension. And remember, pain can inhibit other muscles. So if I've got a short and tight muscle somewhere that's irritating, it can mess the rotator cuffs up, for example. So there's two key stretches that you can do around the area. You can also do neck rotation and just feel, can I rotate more than one side than the other? And if I'm struggling that side, then I can sit with good posture, rotate my head to the side, put my palm of my hand on my cheekbone, not my jaw, because the jaw moves. And in this position, I find the bind point being a bit of tension, and I'm gently going to turn my head back into my palm for 5 seconds and relax. Can I get any more? Yes, I can. 5 seconds and relax. And I do that 3 times. That way I'm just starting to open up the rotation muscles. But you've got to be careful with stretching. It's very easy to get it wrong. This is almost a crash course in it. So, this again, where I would advise you to go see a professional to actually assess your body to get length, tension, relationships. The main reason for that is this. We think about the shoulder and we think, oh, we're just going to assess the shoulder joint for muscles. The truth of the matter is that for the vast majority of people, that will not be the only answer, because all of the muscles influence the shoulder. Because when I walk and when I run in gait, don't I go left leg, right arm? So the left hip is intimate with the right shoulder. The right hip is intimate with the left shoulder. So can I have tension in my right hip that is having a throw-on effect that is actually aggravating the left shoulder? Yes. And can I have a left shoulder issue that is affecting the hip? Absolutely, which is why we have, again, integrated whole body approach. But we can get some win and some gains from making sure that we are flexible to the degree that we need to be in certain muscles. I would highly recommend assessing your stretching throughout your entire body. You can quite simply put yourself into a hamstring stretch position. There are videos on about that can be trusted. You've got to be careful with it. But you can go into a stretch position and go, oh yeah, that side feels tighter than the other. A lot of people know if their hamstrings are too tight. And it's like, I know my hamstring's too tight, but I'm not stretching. Yeah, I've got a shoulder problem. Can stretching the hamstrings assist in the recovery from a shoulder issue? Absolutely. So I believe that's all I wanted to discuss in today's video. So yeah, there you are, guys. That's what can go on within in the shoulder. So to recap, rotator cuff irritated usually by other muscles. To help restore the rotator cuff's position into that inferior glide, we need to first make sure the length tension relationships within the shoulder and actually the rest of the body are established. That is your first point of call before we start going into stabilization exercises. And you have to be very specific with your selection and stabilization exercise. You want to be using a closed chain exercise to begin with on your shoulder. If you have no idea what that is, go to my videos. There is a small video on what is a closed chain exercise. Again, this is no substitute for working with a professional because it's easy to get it wrong. But the couple of tips I've given you through today on flexibility, you should be okay with. Just don't force for a stretch. And remember, if you keep stretching and you're not getting a response and the stretching isn't opening up, it's like that muscle just won't release, stop stretching it. That's your body's way of saying we are going tight on purpose. The reason why we are going tight is to protect the shoulder. We are not going to allow you to release this muscle because this muscle is protecting you from something else within the body. And again, it's that something else that often requires a deeper dive by someone who's spent a lot of time studying this kind of thing. Anyhow, good luck with the shoulder pain, guys, and I will see you on the next one.